Let's Talk Tunneling is produced by XRJV and proudly sponsored by DC Adams Group. Why safety matters.
So from there, I had a bit of a break and ended up with Walters at the Blakefield Drift. It was much the same as Mandalong, did a 1 and 8 trip, going down about 700 odd metres to from the surface to the Blakefield Sea, and I think it was called Blakefield Sea, and that was for Walter Mining. It was a good little job. Another specially modified road header. Had a 105, an old 105. They put bolting rigs on and a great big slide forward platform. They're hydraulic bolting rigs, your hydromatic ones, and they were specifically designed for virtually 180 degrees movement like this, and forward and back about 30 degrees. It was really good setup. Big job. The modifications were done by some mob in Newcastle there. They made a great job of it. The only thing was it was really unbalanced. It turned like a 70-ton machine into a 90-ton machine, and all that weight was forward and the front. But these mine drifts, when you use a machine that size, it virtually takes up the whole area of the tunnel, and that was no exception. We had about a metre either side of the machine, and less where the apron is, to get down. And so we got this drift underway. Little drama to start with, but we started excavating anyway. Got going, got a bit of a rhythm up, doing 2 11-hour shifts a day, and 4 days a week, and had a weekend roster there to do the belt moves and whatever, and the back by work. We got down about 300 odd metres, and struck quite a bit of water, and road headers don't like water, mate. And especially when you're going downhill, 1 and 8, and you cut, and it was just a bloody slurry. Couldn't load it out, couldn't do anything. So the client, the mine, and its wisdom, decided, we'll drill all these holes around the place, and we'll suck all the water out. Well, that only there's water coming in from all directions, and I says, look, the best course of action here is to get rid of the water by pushing it away, draining it, grouting it away. We're not going to suck it out. We'll be here for weeks and weeks and weeks. It'll never go away because you're sitting right there in this water table, and the water's just coming in. So we were virtually at the stage where we were going to excavate a planned passing bay. So we just pulled back and did this passing bay, put all this extra support in, and we were able to park the radiator up and get drilling rig down past it. I suggested to them that they engage the services of the same grouting mob that we used at Plain Cove to consolidate the fall area. And so, believe it or not, they listened to me, and we got the same people to put in or give us a program and a specific program to deal with this. And so they did that, and we were able to get all the drilling done and do the consolidated grouting of that area, and it was just amazing. Like a couple of weeks later, we dried the area up completely, and we were back excavating, and that was just the only real setback on that job. It took them about 3 or 4 weeks to make it a good decision to deal with it as tunnellers, not as coal miners, And we got in there, continued with the excavation. We still had quite a bit of water, but not anything that was troublesome. And we excavated down to about the 650 odd metre mark, and that's when we hit the top of the Blakefield coal seam. Wow! As soon as that road header hit that seam, the water started passing in again, like you wouldn't believe. And we tried our best because we're sort of still excavating the rock up top, dry, and trying to mix it with the wet, thoroughly wet slurry coal at the bottom. And we were getting like half a metre a shift sort of thing. And as soon as we got past, if we could try and dry it up with a dry stone and get it on the shuttle car and out, it would slowly advance. But as soon as those tracks got over the solid rock and down into the coal, top of the coal seam, it just sunk. The rotor just went. It took us about 3 shifts to block it up with timber and get it off there and out of there. And then we started the process of bringing it out. That was it for the road header. And they knew. I says, look, as soon as the excavation's finished, I've got another job to go to. I'm heading. So as soon as that road header was out of there, I was away, go on to the next job. Had a 200 doing the belt drift down there. They never had encountered the same. They had, similar conditions, but did a great job there. And a few of the guys, Gary Kettles, he was over there operating on that one. And it was a lot easier, but this great big machine that we had just didn't like that soft coal. And it was the best decision they made. That's when I ended up back up in Brisbane. The guys there, fantastic guys. I caught up with Delwyn again. He was he was on the foreman there, and I worked with Delwyn. He was our shotcrete operator back in the Eastern Distributor days, and it was great to catch up with him. He was a top bloke. And that, and working together with Nigel and Goldie and that, and I was just quite surprised with them. They had great road headers, all these road headers there, so many different types of road header. And I was lucky from my point of view. I was able to be a change operator on any one of them, just to relieve guys at crib, and I was bounce around the different ones there and that, and eventually ended up on one of the 300s. I think I did doing one of the exit tunnels and managed to get a hole through. I don't remember which one. So it was all different work and that for me, and catching up with Roddy and a few the other guys to that, and the guys that I worked with before over the years at Lane Cove as well, and the M5. It was good, and I really enjoyed it. But as it happens, that work sort of was coming to a close, and the road headers were slowly being decommissioned and that. And, so I ended up more than the end with the TBNs that started off from, and was did the ventilation hole throughs to the main tunnel, then started the cross passages, learned how to operate the boulder again, Tamrock, and doing so. I was cutting the cross passages, doing the bolting and that, but I couldn't handle doing the 6 days and have a day off during the week, and then we were only cutting on weekends, doing all this work behind the TBMs that they'd left behind, and that, the scabbling for the smoke duct and that sort of stuff. So the last tunnel job I did then for a while was Walters. They got a project, virtually cut cost plus there at Top Ryde. There's 3 little tunnels to go under Ryde Road or Lane Cove Road, Devlin Street, in that area. So that sort of worked out well with me coming back from Brisbane, and we went and did that job, myself and Andy Churcher. But that was a good little job. But we like other jobs, you learn a lot. You have your dramas and that, and particular drama with apples. We started well. We got one tunnel finished, only 40 metres. And the second one we started, we had to get off site because the company doing the major excavation for the underground, the whole car park and the whole structure there, the whole site, they were benching down further, and they needed our area to continue, benching down with excavators, and so we had to move our whole operation across the other side of the road where they were actually set up for under concrete slab excavation type work, which was all part of the roadworks going into the roading going into the new underground car park for the shopping centre. So, yeah, that took a bit of time, getting down there, get set up again and get excavating. But, you know, we'd only half excavated one of the tunnels. So, you know, we set about going on under this concrete slab and excavating all that material. Eventually made our way to the tunnel that we hadn't finished, if you can understand that. And so we started excavating there. It was all in sets and everything. No dramas. But we got probably within a metre of hole through, and the designers called a halt. They didn't want us to carry on. What's going on here? They were because we were in the middle, virtually the middle of the road above us. They were worried it was going to fall in. They had some weird ideas in that they wanted us to excavate, stand the set, excavate, spray, stand the set, and just timber up and not spray everything in, which is really abnormal, you know. So, having said that, you've got all this, not this great deal of distance between the top of the tunnel and the road above us, and, you know, being a tunnel, I think, well, hang on, we should be creating as much support as we can here with this shotcrete and sets and everything else, but they didn't want to do that. So they procrastinated there for weeks and decided that it took a while. We had to put up timber cribs on both sides while they worried about what they were going to do. Anyway, in that time, though, Walter's had a job going up in North Queensland coalfields, and it started off this project at Carve Downs, drift down to the coal, another one of those drifts for a belt road. And they had the same road header there that we'd used at Blakefield with the big bolting rigs on it and all that sort of thing, and the great big weight. And they'd hired all these guys to go there, right? Not one of them was a road header operator. So I ended up going up there for about 3 weeks, teaching at least one guy on each of the crews how to operate a road header. So it was a bit of a change for me, but it was a good, you know, a different set of guys, different set of circumstances, different roof conditions. It was all another challenge, but it was an enjoyable break for me as far as I was concerned. So we eventually got back to the top right job and finished that, and went back into the coal for probably another 5 years, contracting various coal mines around here, Central Coast, the Lower Hunter Valley, and that, just doing standard out-by stuff. Utilised my drill and blast a fair bit, and one of those pits was particularly happy with their ventilation structures being drill and blasted rather than using road header or continuous miner for a while. So that suited me down to the ground with my explosives knowledge and stuff. So that was very satisfying work doing that again, having done a little bit of road header work in one of them. And then that was the next me for the next 4 or 5 years. Quite satisfying work for me. I was sort of semi-retired. And then, of course, North Connects came up. So, and that was a great part for me. It was, I think this is going to be a wonderful job to do my final years, my twilight years in the tunnelling industry. And it lived up to expectations. I had a great time there. So, very happy. I decided myself that, I'll go there, and because of my knowledge and that, and I was hoping to impart a bit of that onto some of the younger guys, but I thought, these guys, they don't need me. They've got people in positions there that have got the enthusiasm to go in them. They've got the ability to teach guys. They've got guys there that are prepared that went there with not a lot of experience, but they're prepared to stand up and lead. And I thought that was amazing characteristics. Some of the guys that I worked with there, they had that confidence in themselves and their own abilities, to be role models, and some of them, it's the only project they'd ever worked on underground. I thought, this is amazing stuff. This is the sorts of guys that we've got coming through now that have that confidence. They have a construction background, and this struck me. Well, I don't need to do this. These guys can do that. And then, of course, they sport me. They gave me a job on the loader in the shed underground during the day and in the shed at night. And I said, well, this will do me. I'll do my best out here. I'll sort of know where everything is on the surface and that. They know they need anything, they'll come and see me, and especially on night shift. And that's how I ended up there. It was permanent night shift. It was good to be able to help out and do that. And I got a lot of satisfaction out of that project. There was a lot of reluctance for people to step forward. I think mainly because they don't want to lose money. So the company sort of, back to, well, we won't make you staff, but, and then there was really no obstacle for them to, get ahead in their career, just go and show that they could do this work. And to me, it was a standout thing. The guys, because you knew how organised they were. You going around, you could see what was happening, and thought, this is great. They put their hands up. They're not lacking in encouragement and initiative, and it was just good to see. Yeah, being resourceful is probably one of the main things. Being resourceful, knowing your work area, what's expected of you. You need a willingness to learn new skills. As I say, every job is different. You've got to be able to adapt. You have to be able to put what you've learned into practice. As I say, you learn things off one job, you might have to do that a different way at another job. Learning to adapt is one of those key things. You still have that basic knowledge about how you're going to do a job, but depending on what equipment you've got, the conditions of your condition of whatever equipment you've got, the plant, whatever you do is going to affect the job, be it ground conditions and that. It's all a learning process, and that's to take that process from one job to the next. How you've picked that up, how you can adapt. That makes a good tunneler. Being able to interact with not only your workmates, but to have that ability to pass your knowledge on, whatever you learn, to other new guys coming into this industry. You're going to learn from you. They're going to ask you questions. You have to take the time to sit and talk with them. And to be a good tunneler too, you have to follow your own standards, set standards so that people can see standards you set for yourself, so that they can follow those standards themselves. And taking pride in your work is just paramount. Eh? You have to enjoy what you do, and you should go the extra distance to satisfy yourself that you've done everything you can in your work area to make it a safe place, to make it a tidy place. Along those lines there, I think don't be afraid to speak up if you think something's not right, if you think you're not sure of something, and that's it. We're all like that, and I was getting like that myself at times. You go to a new work area, you think you know a lot, but you don't. So you ask for assistance. Don't be scared to speak up and talk. And if you have any reservations about things, especially around safety matters, and let's face it, most of the problems occur with young fellas. They're not sure of what they should do and shouldn't do. So don't be reluctant to speak up, say something. You might think you're being silly, but don't. The guys will listen, and even no matter how small or how big a problem it is, because there's no problem that can't be solved. So yeah, that's advice I would certainly give.
Brilliant.
And then, of course, over time, you get that nous, the ability to spot different things that look out of place, that don't look right. And like I said, speak up, say something. That's the advice I give. Yeah.
So how much have the projects nowadays changed from when you first started? Obviously, it's 40 odd years, 40 plus years. So
yeah. Oh, it's changed. Gee. Well, you can imagine, probably one of the greatest changes is the equipment we're using now. 40 years ago, if they'd said, "Oh, we're going to build a 5-kilometre tunnel, twin tunnels from under Auckland Harbour or something like that, and we're going to do a drill and blast," they'd say, "Yeah, you're bloody crazy." So, so we've come a long way in that respect. Even now, I mean, deciding, say, a place like Auckland was just full of volcanic faults and blah, blah, everything else, they're not hesitating now to go into do road-headed TBM projects, and that would never even been considered years ago. So those are the big changes. It's no longer, nothing's not feasible now, really. They're doing projects under the sea floor again. Harbour Tunnel. They've got more planned for here. So that's what's changed. All the technology that we use now. We talked about using string lines, measuring off, and now we've got all that guidance stuff to make things easier for us, which makes us more productive, which makes us more safer. The guidance right down to the way we actually go through the cycle. And as I was going to explain about what happened as a result of the Lane Cove incident, and that we now have all these authorities to tunnel sequences have to be signed off, and that was like 14, 15 years ago. They brought that in after I think was probably as a result of things not being recorded properly when that event occurred. So we have all that. These are all the changes that have been brought in that benefit us. The waiting times for shotcrete to cure, grout bolts to cure, things we wouldn't even have considered. We just get back there, let's get back in and cut. And we're right, And because I had an incident there at North-South Bypass Tunnel. Had one of those old 300s and doing that exit ramp, just shotcreted, hooked it up, straight back in, blah, blah, blah. And I just walked around to the front with a remote, and just under the cover, this is not a cab one, Dan, about 2 metres by 2 metres of shotcrete fell out of the roof, just missed me. So those sorts of things, we didn't even consider it then, did we? We was just did, but now that these things have been brought in, we have standards, which is good. It's been a great advance for our work culture, our safety, and these standards. They are now, they stood the test of time, and they will continue to be changed for the better for everyone. So yeah. The other thing too is going back to my early days, and coming over here, 8-hour shifts was the norm. And we do six days. And now we all do 12s. 12s is the norm on a roster. And I've had no dramas with that. I quite enjoyed it. But it's the fatigue management, the social side, the domestic side, and that sort of thing. Guys living away from home, that's always been, a worry for me. It's not a bad thing, but because the guys, the money's improved and gives them opportunity to get ahead faster and get their own homes and that sort of thing. That's the the good part about it. But it was always a worry for me working those 12s and how that would affect me. But like after a month or two, it's just become normal. yeah. Other things we're seeing now is we've had women in the workplace there for quite some time in professional roles, and we've always respected their work as engineers and geologists and all those other disciplines. And now we've got women coming in tunnelling roles, and we need to respect their ability and give them all the encouragements they need, encouragements to get the tickets to operate, do more than just drive trucks. I don't know if there's any of that going on at the moment, because we've certainly had excavator operators, ladies underground, who do well, do good jobs. So we're going to see a lot more of that. Well, you guys are going to see a lot more of that. Female tradespeople and that. So just encourage them and make them aware and what they're doing and how things work. Yeah.
Is tunneling a good career? What do you reckon?
Oh, mate. To me, it's been the best. When I made my decision 40-something years ago to do something different, I knew I think I'm going to benefit out of this. I didn't think I'd do 40-something years, but the old man was horrified. He worked as a fitter and turner all his, apart from being in the Royal Navy in New Zealand, he worked as a fitter and turner all his life on construction projects and that, and God, he was mortified. But, he got over it, and we were, it was still great, yeah, and I've never regretted for one moment doing what I did. To me, it's been a fantastic learning experience all my working life. The amount of great people you meet and work with, sadly a lot of them are gone now, especially the ones I worked with back in New Zealand. You're going to ask me some names later on, and I couldn't do justice to the guys that I've worked with and even socialised with work, because it was what it was. It was you worked together, you played together back in those days, and still happens now, And it was just fantastic for me.
As a frontline leader, an experienced tunneler, how much involvement do you have, and can you give advice to new supervisors, frontline leaders that may be listening?
Yeah, I would say the old school of, where everybody's yelling at one another, yelling at the guys, that's all gone. You have to respect people, and they might have not have the ability that other people have got. They might not adapt so quickly. They might not be able to put in practice things that you want done so quickly. But if you can see that they've got that perseverance, that interest in the job, that willingness to do it, but they're still learning and still reluctant to do certain things because they don't have that experience. It's my advice is to just show that patience and work with them. I saw a lot in the coal mines that the things could be very, very dicey at times, going into areas that they weren't sure about going into, areas that perhaps weren't through some reason or other weren't fenced off and things like that. I know that intimidation, should be a thing of the past, to get things done. And always encourage guys to always do the right thing. Encourage them to get knowledge in other ways. Take the effort to read a bit more about. Encourage them to take the effort to get more training, to get interest in the work they're doing underground. Don't be satisfied with sitting in a truck, listen to your music and things like that, and and that's what a good supervisor should impart on his guys, the fact that, look, we put you in a position where we want you to show some initiative, and if you show that initiative, there will be rewards. You'll be shown great respect, but you have to show initiative. You have to do things, get out of there and get to a work area, make sure everything's all right to your satisfaction, or do you think the boss's satisfaction, that he come down there and say, oh, I don't need to be told what to do. I can see, oh, this needs to be, I've done this, I've done that, things like that, We need to encourage those people, that we're working with, that to always work to everybody else's standards, and the supervisors set those standards. The fact that the guys have to do the right thing, and be truthful, do their plant inspections and that, and report things. Young guys coming onto those jobs, they to say anything. So that's what supervisors have to impart on their men, is never be reluctant to say anything. If you don't say anything, something happens, it'll come back to bite you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the standards they need to set, and so the guys will learn to say, well, this is the minimum I have to do. I'll go further. I'll do a bit more, and I'll do as much as I can to help. It doesn't only help this shift; it helps the next shift coming on, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's going to be on plant and things that are going on around there. You can think of 100 little things that are going on in your particular work area, your cable standards, your all that sort of thing, the cleanliness of your workplace, the supplies that are there or aren't there, and things like that. You just go on. But as long as the guys get an idea of what is expected of them, and that they do to the best of their ability to live up to those standards. Yeah.
Best project and why?
Oh, it had to be the TPD, Tongariro Power Development. I got such a grounding there, not just as a tunneler. From the administration point of view, I learned a lot of things there that you couldn't replicate anywhere else, especially on the contract side. That gave me my initial sort of introduction as working out on site in engineers clerk, and getting all that information, going through with them what we were doing as far as the forecasts and projections of what you were doing, where you were at, and that sort of thing. It was just really brought my interest forward, and then being able to actually go down there underground before I even started work, go down there, and guys would be having crib, and the overseer would take me down. Oh, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? I go down the shaft, and we're about to set. The boys having crib. We're about to go and start drilling out. Oh, let's see where you're at. Where he's working? Oh, come down over here. He's all, here you go. Get on this. Have a go. So I do all that. Same. It's just the amazing, opportunity that come up to work in that environment there in Turangi, and having known most of the guys, playing football with them, all these guys and that, and socialising with them, and the Turangi job was especially because of the variety of work we did there, diversity. I explained before, we weren't just doing one straight tunnel, and that handed to the guys down at Scadelphia and everybody else that was working there, that they encountered some bad conditions that they coped with so amazingly. But we had that opportunity to work on different methods of excavation, raised bores, raising, element raises, shafts, incline tunnels, decline tunnels, big tunnels, small tunnels, tiny tunnels, using all sorts of gear, loaders, track loaders, wheel loaders, rail-mounted loaders, and it was just amazing learning curve for me. It was just a great introduction. So things like that you just never forget, and that's why I probably waffled on too much about it. It was just such a great place. And then outside of work, we had such a great social time then. We had plenty of time on our hands, only working 8-hour shifts, so everybody was really, everybody you knew worked on the project, did some sort of thing. Nobody was better than the others, but, you had people who were doing all sorts of types of work, and we all interacted the same way. We were all good friends and that, neighbours, colleagues, kids went to school together, and we were all equal, didn't worry. Some of us did this, some of us did that, so, do it all again. 42 years, yeah. As I say, it's been great for me. My kids have benefited.
Would there be anything that you would change though? Like you've to me, like that's that's something you've achieved a lot, and I suppose that's something to inspire to. I look at and I listen to what you've said, and I've just gone, wow, like
put more money into super.
It's not silly.
So that's advice I'd give anybody. Like, geez, put yourself in a position where you can't do this sort of work forever. I got arthritis in my shoulders, my knees are gone. My arms, my elbows, my fingers. You spend all that time on the airleg and that. Jesus, you get this numbness. You get, my hearing's gone, almost. It's still there, but
did you ever consider doing anything different, or you're quite content?
For a short while up there in North Queensland, when the gold mine closed up there, and before I came down to the New South Wales, I managed to get a bit of work on a road cutting. Operated an air track, doing shot firing, long holes for shot firing. They fired this road cutting, and bloke I met in a pub on a Sunday afternoon, and he says, "No, you can't operate an air track." I said, "I can, mate. Yeah. Come on then, we're off out the site there." Right? Had a few beers. Come on, we're going out the site. It was about 30 k's south of Proserpine. And got on the air track, started moving it around, and had its own compressor behind it. And all the holes were marked out by the survey, how deep they had to be. Doing like 8 to 13 metre deep holes. Oh, I said, "Oh, that's pretty good." Oh, okay. So can you start tomorrow night, Monday? What was it? About 1 till 1 in the morning or something like that. Yeah, no worries, mate. So that was it. Out there in the middle of nowhere, on an air track, cane farms all around, nobody with me. Lucky I had a few bloody lights around the place, and set about drilling these holes. And like they're on a pattern, probably I think they were 3 metre by 3 metre paddock blasting pattern, and drilling pre-split holes for the edge of the road cutting. And says, "Yeah, no dramas." So I did that for about 3-4 weeks. Won't go into pay details, it's a bit different. And it was quite good. I didn't mind that. He says, "Look, we've got plenty of work coming up the Burdekin Dam and somewhere else. So to Hayman Island and Hamilton Island to do." "Nah, mate, I hate this shit." "I hate this, mate. I can't do this." I did this, like I was saying, I did this spell back in Powerhouse doing these 18-metre rock anchors for the crane beam there. And it was like, it had to be done, but it was soul-destroying stuff. You sit there to try and you're drilling this 18-metre hole, and you get to the winding part, doing the 6-inch hole. It take half an hour to do a bloody 5-foot steel, widening the hole out to 150 mil. So I'd had me fill of that sort of work by then. So no, I don't really enjoy it that much. So I'm heading south anyway, down to the tunnels in New South Wales. So that was the only opportunity I had to do anything different tunnelling in the last 40 odd years. And even though I don't mind drilling, did plenty of that, did secondary support and coal mines and stuff like that. But this was different. I thought, no, I'm going to do that. So yeah, I spent a lot of time under the Bob Techie's wing and that. Before we both come over here together. Prior to that, my first shift boss was Sonny Kiramiti underground. All these guys, they're all gone now. But some of the guys then that really stood out, and they were old and they're nearly at retirement at the end, there's a couple of guys that come from the mines, and they're both working over in Waihi, and they would have done it really tough in the old mining conditions back in the 50s and 60s, maybe earlier than that. A couple of guys by the name of Jack Lester and George Lang. And we'd all lived in the same street there in Turangi and Maria Place there for some time. They stood out with my first week underground. I knew that, you know, we all their kids and we all went together to school there and that. These guys were, you know, I just looked at them and I thought, it's amazing. Nothing flustered them, you know. My brother-in-law, John Murray, he was amazing. He always had my ear. He was always the same thought patterns as me, always looking to improve and put me in that same mind to do things the most efficient way, the quickest way, the most efficient way, the safest way. He put those sorts of ideas into my head, and it made me, you know, think along the same lines. We used to talk a lot about, you know, what we were doing, why we were doing it, how we were doing it. Couldn't you do it like this? Couldn't you do it like that? You know, and you know, sadly, he's not with us anymore. All these guys, you know, particularly Bob, he had a great. All of these guys had a great deal of respect. Bob's thought was, and he would tell the overseer, the supervisor, I'm the shift boss, I'll run the job my way. And that was it. No, end of story. So, you know, that's how the shift bosses were in those days on that project. The hierarchy was the construction super on the side. Then you had the overseers, which were like foremen, staff guys, and then you had the shift bosses, which were the same as us wage worker type people. And but they ran the job. Everything was done. They organised, they ran it. And that's why that system really worked really well back then. And because these guys, they've been doing this work for years like this. And that's the way the system always worked. And to me, that worked really well when we were there. So, yeah, these guys, like I say, Sonny Kiramiti. I think poor Sonny had a heart attack on the job and passed away. And he was only in his late 40s. But these guys, they gave their all. Hard workers. And, you know, I sit and think at times about what they endured in some of those projects back home before I started my career. I go to the guys working for Downers in Cadelpha. The Takanu Tunnel, those tunnels, Cadelpha did the Western Diversions. If you see some of the photos on the website that came from the books that Landis provided, and that, you look at some of those photographs, what people endured then. And if you had the ability to read, the opportunity to read the stories behind a lot of those photographs, you will see the hardships those guys went through to get those projects completed. Those are the guys I sort of looked up to and admired, because they worked on some of the most horrendous conditions. We talked about those Cadelpha guys, other areas in the north of Italy, and there's tunnels everywhere, but I don't think they would have encountered in those tunnels what they encountered in New Zealand. I'd be very surprised. I might be wrong, but knowing quite a few of the guys that are still there in Turangi that work for Cadelpha, Italian guys, we talk about things, and you know, if you look at, look again at those photographs out of those magazines to see what was encountered at that Mofama tunnel, the Western Diversions tunnels, Downers tunnels. It wasn't just the water; it was the heat in the the mountainside above the Carve power station. It's all that geothermal activity around there, and it was just amazing, the conditions. And out where we were at the underground power station there when I started, we had some bad times, but not anything like they endured, and which the Downers guys endured again in the tail race tunnel, which all the geological conditions that they had to work with here. So the guys, like Jock Smith, young Jock, and Huck Perk, they were our neighbours back in Turangi for quite a long time. So we, to them, they just lived tunnelling, and they highly respected bosses, ship bosses. They knew their job, and they were able to get on with the job, and they were very dedicated people, like most of the people I work with, dedicated people. We had, guys there that perhaps that was their last jobs on that project. Had some guys that were underground. I think one of the oldest was Bill Parsons, and he lived to be 100, stayed in Turangi, and I can't remember. There's probably a story there, but he worked all his, most of his working life in tunnels from way back. He'd probably going back to the 30s or 40s. They're the legends. Those sorts of guys to deal with the methods they used then. If you see photographs of the Ruataka Tunnel, someone put one on the Facebook page there some months ago. A lot of that tunnel was just done with timber sets instead of steel sets. If you look at the background of the photographs, you'll see how do they make these timber sets? They're like 7-piece or 8-piece sets. You had dedicated tradesmen that knew what they were doing to do this sort of work. Yeah, it's always amazed me. I undertook, we talked about my brother-in-law John. He encouraged me to do the tunnel managers ticket course. It was run by the New Zealand Technical Correspondence Schools. I don't know, he got pretty good marks when he did his. So I did mine there. I did the course, and that assisted me a lot to get my ticket just before we moved over here. But the guys that flew for it without having to do that course, it helped me a lot. So it gave me greater understanding of what we were doing. Yeah. But there's just so many people, you'd say, but by the same token, I've worked with some great people in Australia. Too many names to mention, but a lot of the guys, especially Mr. Johnny and his old man, worked with them, through them, they worked. The old man Butch came through the old school there at the Snowy Mountains, and probably many other jobs, and such a lot of respect for him. Nigel got a start down here when we were working more ahead, and he's gone on to bigger and greater things. So just in more contemporary times, and then all the other guys I worked with in the road tunnels since then. You go back to guys we started with there at the M5 and on through Lane Cove, Matty Fallon and John Wilson, Johnny Gardner again, and that. Just too many. I know. Yeah. Robbo.
So this is another episode, mate, and this is Bryan Greenfield, and it's awesome. Thank you. And
thanks, Dallas. Thanks you, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my past, and I certainly haven't been. I'm not up there with those guys, but I've certainly made a grand time of it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've met a lot of people in this industry, and hopefully I've made a lot of friends, not only in tunneling and in mining as well. Like I say, I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I recommend it to anybody that's not happy in their job, whatever they do in other sorts of spheres of industry, construction. Always recommend it, mate. If there's nothing, you try something different. Try a bit of tunnelling work. It's very rewarding. You meet lots of nice people, and to me, it's been great for my family, for us. It's put me in a position to sort of go into semi-retirement early in that, and I'm grateful to the industry and all those people I work with to get him into that position. Sad thing about our industry, over the years, I've watched a lot of guys not get too far into their retirement, unfortunately. I don't know whether it's part of what we endure, the dust, not only that, the hard nature of work sometimes, wearing the body out early and stuff like that. But these days, all the technological advances and that, and all the machinery, plant, and everything else we use, it's going to prolong our working lives. So and our retirements. So, thank you very much, Dallas, for this opportunity. It's been a real pleasure. Been a real pleasure. I hope someone gets something out of it to make their life easier there, and I hope you get lots of good feedback from it.
Good on you. Well, thank you, Greenie. I'll mate, you retired on that, but from the tunnellers that are still in the industry now, I thank you, and immensely appreciative of what you've shown us over the years and what you've shared tonight. So I thank you. So this is another episode of Let's Talk Tunnelling. Tune in, subscribe, like, and share Let's Talk Tunnelling podcast. So till we meet again, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, Dallas. Cheers to everybody.
Let's Talk Tunnelling is produced by XRJV and proudly sponsored by DC Adams Group, Why Safety Matters.